possible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Bruce, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From Thursday, June 25th of 2026, top story, businesses eyeing cleaned up brownfield sites in city. Article by John Whitaker. Federal help is continuing to come in for remediation and redevelopment of the former Crawford Furniture manufacturing site in Jamestown, as well as additional sites in the city. Jamestown is slated to receive $1 million. U.S. Senators Chuck Schumer and U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand announced Wednesday in federal support to help assess, clean up, redevelop, and reuse contaminated and abandoned properties. The money is from the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Law allocated through the Environmental Protection Agency's Brownfields program. Grant funds in Jamestown will be used to conduct up to 6 Phase 1 and up to 6 Phase 2 environmental site assessments and support cleanup and reuse, planning, and community engagement activities. 4 of the sites are mentioned in the city's application for federal funding as sites for existing companies to expand once the sites are environmentally ready. Crawford site. In 2023, Schumer helped lead an effort for the EPA to clean up toxic debris left behind by a 2022 fire at the Crawford Furniture site at 1061 Allen Street. Schumer first visited the site in January of 2023 and outlined his plan, which called for the EPA to bolster their presence at the site and coordinate with Jamestown to demolish what was left standing of the Crawford buildings, dispose of asbestos and asbestos-containing debris, and decontaminating materials from the site that can be set aside for recycling. The former Crawford site is the first priority site for the federal money. The EPA completed remediation at the site in September of 2024, with the partial clear of structures, though it is still vacant and unimproved. The site is a priority because it is highly visible, is adjacent to an existing furniture manufacturer that has expressed interest in expansion and can therefore convert a former high-risk Superfund property into a job-producing, tax-generating industrial facility. From Utica in the Mohawk Valley to Western New York and beyond, New York has had too many toxic eyesores and contaminated sites from our industrial past that drive down property values and put public health at risk. I'm proud to announce that thanks to $14 million in federal investment from the Bipartisan Infrastructure and Jobs Law I led to passage in the Senate, we can accelerate the cleanup and reuse of New York's contaminated eyesores. This support will make our communities healthier and cleaner, all while creating good-paying jobs and new development opportunities that enhance local tax rolls. Schumer said, "The Brownfields program has had tremendous success in transforming sites like these into areas of new growth and will supercharge cleanup and redevelopment efforts at lots in every corner of New York. I am proud to deliver this federal investment to revitalize our communities and will always fight for a brighter and cleaner future for New York communities." The other property sites are 251 Harrison Street, 289 Harrison, 133 Windsor Street, and a pool of the city-owned sites at 929 Monroe Street, an unaddressed 1-acre plot on Monroe Street, 512 West 10th Street, 1001 Monroe Street, and 7/10 of an acre site on West 11th Street. These parcels are strong candidates for expanded waterfront/green space, trail and riverwalk connections, and neighborhood-serving commercial or residential uses, subject to confirmation of environmental conditions. The city's grant application states if funds remain after work at the 4 primary sites, The city will first advance these secondary parcels and then any other candidate in the BOA corridor using a consistent process. Harrison Windsor Street properties. 251 Harrison was once a textile mill from 1867 to 1881 before transitioning into uses by a plating company, chemical company, dry cleaning facility, and multiple metalworking operations. The property once contained a manufacturing complex that underwent phased demolition from 1988 to 1999. It is now vacant. Historic uses suggest potential impacts from solvents, degreasers, dry cleaning fluids, volatile organic compounds, petroleum products, thinners, metals, cyanide, acids, and bases. Regulatory records indicate that the site was listed as a large quantity hazardous waste generator in the early 1990s. NISDAC inspections of the last recorded tenant, Watson Manufacturing Company, documented serious noncompliance with hazardous waste regulations. The site is vacant land with likely residual subsurface contamination and is strategically located near the riverfront and adjacent neighborhoods. The city's grant application states an adjacent manufacturer has expressed interest in expanding onto the site, possibly as part of a project that includes properties at 289 Harrison Street and 133 Windsor Street. The third priority site is 289 Harrison Street, which shares much of the same use history as 251 Harrison Street. The property at 133 Windsor Street had a history as a lumber yard with storage, sawmill operations, printing and glazing, a chemical company, and the manufacture of doors and blinds. On-site features historically included a transformer room, glue room, paint room, coal room, and lumber storage. The long industrial history suggests potential impacts from petroleum products, solvents, adhesives, paints, PCBs associated with transformers, and other hazardous substances. A portion of the Chattacoin River, formerly part of Log Pond, once extended into the central and southwestern portions of the site. These areas were filled in prior to 1930 with materials of unknown origin, raising concerns about the presence and quality of historic fill. 133 Windsor Street combines long-term industrial use, likely subsurface impacts, including historic fill, and an important riverfront location. The city's grant application states, assessment and cleanup here are critical to reducing environmental risk and enabling new industrial, mixed-use, or river-oriented redevelopment consistent with community and city plans. Potential to bundle this parcel with 251 and 289 Harrison. Nearly 200 communities get grants. Brownfield are properties where moderate contamination threatens environmental quality and public health and can interfere with productive reuse of the sites. Since its inception, EPA's brownfields investments have leveraged billions in cleanup and redevelopment funding from a variety of public and private sources and have created tens of thousands of jobs. The EPA's Brownfields program announced 190 communities have been selected to receive assistance. Some of the support includes non-competitive supplemental funding to several existing revolving loan fund (RLF) grant recipients who already achieved success in their work to clean up and redevelop brownfield sites. RLF grants provide funding for recipients to offer loans and sub-grants to carry out cleanup activities at brownfield sites. This $14 million federal investment from the bipartisan infrastructure law is a major boost for cleaning up contaminated sites across New York that pose serious health and infrastructure risks, said Gillibrand, a member of the Senate Appropriations, Interior, and Environment Subcommittee. The Brownfields program is funding more than a dozen projects, including nearly $1 million for the Shinnecock Nation on Long Island to restore a 65-acre former dump site and an 80-acre tidal wetland. This funding will benefit millions of residents and revive hundreds of acres for public use. By investing in our state's future, we are creating good jobs and ensuring a healthier, safer environment for generations to come. What shapes us? County historian talks about importance of America 250 upcoming events. Article by Sarah Holthouse. With multiple celebrations happening across the state and the nation for this year of America's 250th birthday, Chautauqua County historian Norm Carlson is reflecting not only on his own connections to the American Revolution, but also the importance of the upcoming celebration. Carlson has been a member of the Sons of the American Revolution for many years, including serving as a former president. In order to be an SAR member, one has to be able to trace their lineage back to an American Revolution patriot. Altogether, Carlson said he has found 6 ancestors of his that fall into this category, including a Daniel Childs from Maine that he used to join SAR. He also noted his relation to Josiah Bartlett, who is the 5th great-grandfather. Carlson added that there was a Joshua Bartlett who signed the Declaration of Independence, but this was a different one than his ancestor, as Josiah Bartlett was a common name among the Bartletts back then. This connection is an important one to Carlson, who said that connections to the past should be important to everyone. Why wouldn't it be, Carlson said. Why wouldn't someone's heritage and the past of their family, community, be important to them? The past is what shapes us and gives us the information that we act on today. As part of the America 250 celebrations, Carlson said New York State is strongly encouraging each county to celebrate the American Revolution. The overall revolution lasted from 1775 to 1783, when the Treaty of Peace was signed. So Carlson said that anniversary will be celebrated in 2032. Specifically for this year, it is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and Carlson said the state is providing counties with funds to help celebrate this anniversary, such as for speakers and exhibits, and to overall help counties to celebrate properly. America's 250th anniversary is important, Carlson said, because it is in the human mind and habits to review or reminisce on past years with numbers that stand out, such as 250. This will also be the first time many people alive today will have the opportunity to consider and celebrate this anniversary on a grand scale, with multiple organizations nationwide hosting events. It's a splendid opportunity to learn about the past, though any time is a good time to learn, Carlson said. If we're not learning from the past, then what are we learning from? Also, in celebrating the 250th anniversary, Carlson said he would like to see people ask the deeper questions. This includes areas such as continuing the revolution and expanding the franchise. In this case, Carlson said he would like to see people question if expanding the franchise helps produce a better government or makes it worse. He also noted the importance of voting and that people who do not watch the news or read the newspapers still vote, and to not take for granted things like that, as everyone who is able to vote is expected to be able to make wise choices. Carlson added that this is also a good time to reflect on the freedoms that people had before the revolution that people today might not have, and what freedoms people have today that those in the time of the revolution did not. Carlson said people should also be reflecting on the history of democracy during this anniversary, which was first instituted in ancient Greece by Clisthenes, known as the father of Athenian democracy. Carlson noted that in the 1770s, the idea of democracy was a radical one, as some people thought it would not work because it did not work well in Athens. In the Athenian democracy, Carlson said some things were different, such as specific rules on voting, including all adult male citizens had to vote, and a steering committee ruled, though the steering committee was not voted on, rather chosen by a lottery. Democracy is complex and difficult to make work, Carlson said. We should use this anniversary to ask deeper questions and not just to continue advancing our ideological views. As the county historian, Carlson is chairman of the 2026 History Expo Committee. The History Expo is set for August 2nd, which Carlson noted is the day after the book and paper show and the day before Ken Burns is set to speak at Chautauqua Institution. The History Expo will be heavily America 250 themed and include a lot of history. The Jamestown Harmony Express will be there along with speakers and a few other things still in the works. Kids' activities will be included, such as learning how spies operated during the Revolution. The day will include parking, food, and education. Everything is free, and it will take place at the old Mayville School. Carlson will also be in Mayville's July 4th parade and has been doing and will continue to do numerous repetitions of two speeches: Chautauqua County's connections to the Revolutionary War and George Washington's connections to Chautauqua County. Carlson said both are very pointed, not the same old thing before you've heard, and not what people will expect. He encouraged everyone to come out and join in the History Expo and other America 250 events. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. City Comprehensive Plan Moves Toward Adoption. Article by Sarah Holthouse. The city's updated comprehensive plan is moving towards the final adoption stage, following discussions and approvals by some of the City Council's committees on Monday. At the Council's Housing Committee meeting, Jason Kulizewski, City Principal Planner, said the comprehensive plan is something that has been being worked on since he took on the planner role about a year ago. The final stages of draft review and hopefully adoption are in progress, with the current plan out with the public being the third draft. Kulizewski said additional public comments have been added to that as the public comment period continues until next week. The plan was also presented to the Planning Commission last week. The comprehensive plan process has included a lot of community engagement, looking at past plans and goal setting. Part of the plan is also looking at future land use plans, as the update to the zoning code is set to follow once the comprehensive plan is officially approved and adopted. The contractor the city had helped create the comprehensive plan was CNS Companies, and Kulizewski said that they have shared the amount of public engagement that went into the process, including youth engagement with Jamestown High School. The plan ultimately identified 8 different goals, Kulizewski said. Essentially, embrace and celebrate Jamestown's unique community identity, supporting safe and vibrant pedestrian-scale mixed-use neighborhoods, stabilizing housing options, improving the multimodal transportation system, restoring and preserving our natural resources, expanding and diversifying economic opportunities, committing to a resilient infrastructure, and then promoting inclusive and collaborative planning. Some feedback already received for the comprehensive plan included that people have enjoyed being a part of the planning process and would like to continue to be able to do that moving forward. Kulizewski added that during the second public meeting, people were allowed to vote for which goals should be prioritized of the 8, with stabilizing housing and improving transportation getting the most votes, and promoting inclusive and collaborative planning getting the least amount. One good thing to note is that With the transportation piece, we are already working to address some of that with the Safe Streets for All process. Kulizewski said, honestly, a lot of the goals that have been identified in the plan are things we are already working towards or are at different points making progress in the community. Kulizewski then addressed the future land use plan and some of the goals that come with that, including diversifying housing opportunities and reinvesting in neighborhoods. There is also a focus on the waterfront and downtown, with better site design for large-scale commercial uses. Our current comp plan is from 1998, with the current zoning plan being from the 1960s or 1970s, with updates that have been kind of worked around the edges over the years, Kulizewski said. So this is an opportunity to really bring some of our plans and documents into the 21st century and lead us into the next half a century. This is a plan that's obviously developed for the city, but really meant to be implemented by many throughout the community, not just city departments, but also nonprofits and partners and things like that, Kulizewski said. Kulizewski then addressed the next steps before the final adoption of this comprehensive plan, including public comment that is open until the 29th. SEQR and council approval, with the official comp plan approval by the overall city council set for next Monday's voting session. One of the things that when we first started this process over a year ago that we really tried to reinforce with the consultant team was that the intention is for this to be a living, breathing document, Surdick said. It does not belong on a shelf, so it better be good and be something we can take and use as our guide. We've had other plans that we've been able to kind of do that. I would say the urban design plan, we use that a lot. The Chattaquine River Strategic Business Plan, we use that a lot. They all talk to each other. They all use each other, and they all kind of say essentially the same thing, that we're working towards these goals. While the goals evolve a bit, Surdick added that they are all very much aligned. Once the plan is finalized, she said she believes they will be very happy with it, and it will be something all community members can use. Kulizewski noted that the goals have flexibility with them to allow the city to work to achieve them in a way that works for them as they go. It will also help support grant applications for the city. Molitor Borrello criticized state Dems, New York City primary during chamber event. Article by Gregory Bacon. Wednesday morning in Dunkirk, there were a few white clouds in the sky. The sun was shining and the temperature was near perfect. Looking out on Lake Erie, the water was calm. Area leaders, business people, and other community residents had gathered at Shorewood Country Club. State Senator George Borrello looked out at the crowd and stated, "Look out there. Look how beautiful this is. Look at this beautiful venue that we're in. This is why we are in the fight, because this is worth fighting for. I love living here. I don't want to move. So every day, whether it's in Albany or in the district, we're here just trying to support our shared values." Borrello, as well as Assemblyman Andrew Molitor, were the guest speakers at the CHQ Chamber State of the State Legislature breakfast. The two Republican leaders gave an update on the recent legislative session that had wrapped up challenges that they see moving forward and where they want to see the state pivot. Molitor said he believes the number one goal of the state legislature should be figuring out a way to stop the population loss by making New York more affordable. We are continuing to do nothing for that. That's a huge problem, he said. The night before the breakfast was the primary for the state. Molitor noted that in New York City, some of the moderate Democrat colleagues had lost their seats in the primary to Democratic Socialists of America. Borrello expressed his concern over that as well. You saw a primary last night where you had committed communists that are now going to be members of the Senate and the Assembly and candidates for Congress, he said. Following the primary, the Associated Press reported New York City Mayor Zohan Mamdani's slate of fiery progressive swept establishment-backed Democrats in the state's congressional primaries on Tuesday, ousting two sitting congressmen in a resounding show of force for the Democratic Socialist leader of America's largest city, who is fighting to reshape the Democratic Party in New York and beyond. Borrello, a frequent critic of the Democratic leaders in Albany, believes the state is becoming more divided. I don't think this is anyone a Democrat-Republican thing. I don't think this is any more a Democrat-Republican thing. This is about a radical left agenda based in New York City that really opposes, I think, the fundamental values of most of the people I represent, he said. Molitor was elected as assemblyman of the 150th district, which includes all of Chautauqua County, in November of 2024. He was asked about what surprised him during his first 2 years in office. The bills don't get read so very often. You have bills that are really bad bills that get enacted, or maybe are really good ideas, but because the bill wasn't read and gone through with a fine-tooth comb, has all these unintended consequences, he replied. Some of that is due to timing. Borrello noted that after the state budget was passed, which was 2 months late, the state legislature only has 6 days left in session. In those 6 days, we addressed over 1,000 bills, he said. Borrello did not say he felt there were some wins in the state budget, specifically delaying some of the climate mandates that were originally to be enacted in 2030, including mandating electric school buses. He noted that he is worried those delays could be reinstated following the election in November. If the same people are in charge, I have no confidence that they, Democratic leaders, will continue down his path, trying to moderate their positions, Borrello said. In the opinion section, maybe the second time is the charm for Furniture Mart. 10 years ago, city officials had high hopes for the redevelopment of the Furniture Mart building. At the time, the $19 million project was going to be led by Ellicott Development with $1.5 million of DRI money earmarked for the project. The proposal was for 2 floors of office space, a 100-room hotel spread over 5 floors, and rental apartments on the remaining 3 floors. The parking lot next to the building was to see a parking structure with 354 spaces, including 90 spaces available to the public. Retail space would have been created on the first floor. A decade later, it's deja vu all over again. Project costs have ballooned to $40 million in 10 years' time, though the plan is roughly the same. Ground floor retail, meeting and conference space, a boutique hotel, and residential units. It's telling that 2 plans, drafted 10 years apart, both place high importance on redeveloping the Furniture Mart. The Furniture Mart is a treasured part of Jamestown's past, but the building is in desperate need of a facelift. There have been developers interested over the past several years, but plans have fallen apart because of either a lack of money, poor timing, lack of impetus to sell the building, and a host of other reasons. Every few years there is a push to bring the Furniture Mart into the 21st century, only to see the former crown jewel of downtown enterprise remain stuck in the past. The city will have roughly 8.5 of the $40 million baseline cost covered through a $1.34 million Regional Economic Development Council grant the city has already secured, and $2 million in DRI funding. There may never be a time when the city has this much to put forward. The Furniture Mart, especially with a new unnamed developer working on the project. If now isn't the time, will the project's time ever come? For years, city officials have had high hopes for the Furniture Mart building, only to find themselves disappointed. We hope this time will be different because construction costs aren't going to get cheaper the longer the Furniture Mart sits in its current state. The project cost is now more than twice the 2016 estimates. We shudder to think what the project may cost if the Furniture Mart decays for another 10 years. I feel like the time for a Furniture Mart project is now, and now or never, before the building is too far gone to have a new future. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Years in the making. Teamwork, patience lead to new baseball scoreboard at Ellery Town Park. Article by Thomas Swendler. Members of the Maple Grove Little League in the town of Ellery saw their first home run without even taking the field thanks to a group of volunteers who installed their first ever electronic scoreboard this season. This has been years in the making, says Christy Winchester, a reading teacher at Fletcher Elementary School who serves as president of Maple Grove Little League. The league's board of directors loaded the bases in 2019 with the construction of a snack bar that brought electricity to the field, paving the way for a future scoreboard. But then COVID hit and led to a delay of game on the effort while fundraising efforts continued. After talking to Jason Yo, past league president, and knowing the time they had put into getting things ready for it, I wanted to see it through, says Winchester. The current board of directors purchased the scoreboard this season and had it installed. 6 teams representing about 70 players use the field 4 to 5 nights a week. Our regular season finished up this week, said Winchester. Now we will have 8 to 10-year-olds, all-stars using the field. Maple Grove Little League is hosting a semifinal and the finals this year. A lot of people help pitch in to make Ellery Park a field of dreams, but who's keeping score? Winchester is. The town of Ellery helped with the beams and got the scoreboard hung. Alstrom Schaefer donated the tools needed to wire the scoreboard. Journeyman Eric Vanstrom, journeyman Carl Linneman, and apprentices from IBEW Local 106 wired the scoreboard. Maple Springs Gravel, Allied Alarm Services, Lennart Excavating, Southern Tier Dentistry, and Heathen Household Services covered expenses. Barking dogs prompt climber to discuss noise ordinance. Article by Sarah Holthouse. Discussions have been ongoing in the town of Clymer regarding a potential town noise ordinance, with discussions becoming more prominent at the June Town Board meeting following complaints of dogs barking nonstop throughout the night. 2 town residents approached the town board with their concerns, as some dogs in the town have been heard barking constantly all night long, and often during the day as well. It has been reported to not only be bothering Clymer residents, but Clymer Central School students and staff too when they keep hearing barking during the day. It was noted that for the town, as an agricultural area, there are a few things to consider with the noise ordinance, as it would cover everything and not just dogs barking all night, many nights in a row. Certainly we're going to look into it, Town Supervisor Brian Willink said. I have it on the agenda as a bullet point. I've heard and seen that there has been a lot of rumbling around, especially this year is worse than prior years. It was also noted that school employees have approached the suspected owners of the dogs to ask them to get them to stop, and that the dogs constantly barking is not something normal or nice to the dogs either. Willink thanked those in attendance for bringing the concerns to the board, saying that they will continue to work on figuring out a noise ordinance and doing their research. The town's zoning laws have not been updated in about 30 years. The town of Mina was also said to be working on something similar with a noise ordinance issue as well. Again, you try to start changing local laws, and where do you start and where do you stop? Willink said, "We're trying to be fair to everybody, but I think everybody also has the right to privacy and to not have their privacy invaded by barking dogs and other loud noises." Willink acknowledged that the town will likely have to take action when it comes to the current ongoing issue with those dogs, unless the homeowners do so themselves. Being careful with the wording of the noise ordinance was also discussed, along with the border of where it could reach, such as having it specifically for downtown or ending at the edge of the water district. Fireworks have come up in the past when it comes to a noise ordinance as well. "We'll do our best to come up with something, and hopefully we'll be able to get some help," Willink said. "Maybe if dogs are under duress, maybe that's the way we start." Town board members acknowledge they hear the dogs as well, and Willink can also hear the dogs at his house. A question was raised if they could make the owners muzzle the dogs, and Willink said he would have to have something to stand behind it, either locally or from the state laws. He added he does not know of any laws currently that would help, unless the dogs are really in danger, which he added he does not think is the case. Again, do we want a 7-page document or one little section? Willink said. "Noise is noise. Barking dogs are a distraction, but so are fireworks. Honestly, I've gotten probably as many calls on fireworks as I have on dogs." For fireworks, Willink said mostly people just need to do them as quickly as possible and realize there are kids that are sleeping, kids that are autistic, and barking dogs at strange hours because of the noise. Willink said he will reach out to the town's attorney, Joel Seacrest, and see if he possibly has an ordinance ready-made that could help the town find a way to deal with the current issue of dogs barking at night. Geis wins Democratic Party primary for Congress. Article by the Post-Journal staff. Aaron Geis, Democrat and Working Families candidate for Congress in New York's 23rd Congressional District, defeated primary opponent Kevin Stocker with more than 71% of the vote. The district includes parts of 9 counties, stretching from southern Niagara down to the Pennsylvania border and across the southern tier to Tioga County. Geis carried each county in the southern tier of at least 50 points. Geis won Chautauqua County by a 2,118 to 433 margin, receiving 77.84% of the vote. "Tonight we proved that this race has momentum," Geis said. "The Western New York Democrats have not given in to cynicism. There is a fierce love that still drives us to the streets, to protest, to donate, to canvass, and to vote." There was also a contested primary for state comptroller, with incumbent comptroller Thomas DiNapoli facing a challenge for the first time in 20 years with Raj Goyal and Drew Warshaw, both vying for his role on the Democratic side. DiNapoli claimed victory Tuesday night. He won Chautauqua County with 70.72% of the vote. The only other primary contest in Chautauqua County on Tuesday involved the Republican town clerk endorsement in Kyantone. Jennifer Schmidt defeated Sandy Volpe Jr. 55-23. Across the state, New York City Mayor Zohan Mamdani's slate of progressives swept established-backed Democrats in the state's congressional primaries on Tuesday, ousting 2 sitting congressmen, U.S. Representative Adriano Espolita, who leads the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and is in his 5th term, was defeated by Madani's most popularizing pick, Daraliza Avila Chevalier, a Democratic socialist who once helped organize pro-Palestine protests at Columbia University. U.S. Representative Dan Goldman, a two-term incumbent, was beaten by the Mamdani-backed former city comptroller Brad Lander, a fixture among New York progressives who has often shown sympathy to the Democratic Socialist movement, and another Mamdani ally. Democratic Socialist State Assembly member Claire Valdez defeated the hand-picked successor of retiring U.S. Representative Nydia Velázquez. The Associated Press contributed to this report. Council discusses JPD's 2026-27 GIVE grant. Article by Sarah Holthouse. The Jamestown Police Department has received their funding through the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Initiative for the 2026-2027 award period, and resolution accepting that award was brought before City Council during Monday's meeting. The resolution was discussed and approved during the Public Safety Committee meeting, and it was noted that the grant period runs from July 1st of 2026 to June 30th of 2027. The grant was applied for in partnership with Chautauqua County, and the total amount received through the partnership is $759,577. $309,345 will be allocated to the Jamestown Police Department. We actually received a little bit more this year than we have, Police Chief Scott Forster said. The GIVE grant helps to fund hotspot patrols, community and youth engagement efforts, according to the agenda for Monday night's City Council. GIVE funds have facilitated partnerships with the District Attorney's Office, Parole, Probation, Department of Development, the New York State Police, and other law enforcement agencies within the community, and as a result, it has led to a tremendous amount of information sharing. Joint targeted patrols in city hotspots have been a great deterrent for officers to control working details in conjunction with their GIVE partners. This award continues to fund one-time crime analyst, half funded by GIVE and half funded by Strive, and one full-time GIVE coordinator assistant, as well as provides money to attend training. We have a couple of other strategies that we're going to work on this year to help the reduction of shootings and some violent crime issues, Forster said. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Jamestown Post-Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Briefly, Outdoor Club to lead kayak canoe trip Sunday. On Sunday, June 28th, Lisa 2 will be leading an Allegheny Outdoor Club kayak canoe trip from the Warren General Hospital helipad at Crescent Park to just past Buckaloons to a private landing. The trip is a 6-mile trip down the Allegheny River. Those who want a shorter route can land in Starbreck. The Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission is known to be on site at the Starbreck launch site, checking for boat permits and life jackets. Based on current water levels, anticipate areas of swirling rapids and 60-foot depths. Those attending should meet at the helipad at 12:30 p.m. to arrange for unloading boats and shuttling vehicles downstream so the group is on the river by 1 p.m. There will be a potluck after the boat trip back at Crescent Park Pavilion, starting roughly at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. Those attending should bring a dish to share. Hot dogs, water, and dinnerware will be provided with Peter 2 at the grill. Restrooms are available. People wanting to attend just the potluck are welcome. In the event of thunderstorms, the potluck can still take place at 4:30 p.m. at the pavilion. Red Cross to host blood drive June 26th in Casadega. The American Red Cross will host a blood drive from noon to 5 p.m. June 26th in the Casadega Fire Hall, 22 Mill Street. To make an appointment or for more information, download the American Red Cross Blood Donor app. Visit redcrossblood.org or call 1-800-733-2767 or enable the blood donor skill on any Alexa Echo device to make an appointment or for more information. All blood types are needed to ensure a reliable supply for patients. A blood donor card or driver's license or 2 other forms of identification are required at check-in. Individuals who are 17 years of age in most states, 16 with parental consent, were allowed by state law, weigh at least 110 pounds, and are generally good health, may be eligible to donate blood. High school students and other donors 16 years of age and younger also have to meet certain height and weight requirements. Fenton History Center to hold walking tour Saturday. Learn about the original industry in Jamestown on the Fenton History Center's walking tour at 10 a.m. Saturday, June 27th, starting at the Fenton History Center, 67 Washington Street, Jamestown. The tour will be near the Chautauqua River and the early industrial areas of downtown Jamestown. Walkers will learn about the woolen mills, the railroad, the sawmills, and the people who made it happen. Tom Goodwill, Fenton Board President and historian, will lead the tour. The tour will begin and end at the Fenton History Center parking lot. The tour is 2 hours long. The cost is $8 for members and $12 for non-members. Participants can pre-register online at www.fentonhistorycenter.org/historic tours. In person at the Fenton or by phone at 716-664-6256. There is a limit of 20 people for each tour. Children up to age 18 are free with a paying adult. Limit 2 children per adult. Sponsors are Rogers Land Surveying, Alstrom, Schaefer, and Weber Knapp. Also available is the Full Circuit History Pass, which provides individual access to all Fenton historic walking tours throughout the 2026 season. Each pass is valid for one person. The cost is $50 for members, regularly $56, and $80, regularly $84, for non-members. Tours throughout the summer are at Allen Park, Jamestown's Hidden Alleys, Jamestown's Industrial Past, a military tour of Lakeview Cemetery, Lucy's Downtown, Church's Tour, and the Ladies of Lakeview Cemetery. For more information, visit www.fentonhistorycenter.org/events. Warren County Fairgrounds open for July 4th camping. The Warren County Fairgrounds in Pittsfield, PA, will be offering holiday camping for the 4th of July. Check-in will start at 11 a.m. on Friday, June 26th, with checkout on Sunday, July 5th by 2 p.m. There are several sites to choose from with water and electric hookups, restrooms with showers, and a dumping station. For reservations or information, call Sue at 814-730-2890. All proceeds will benefit the Improvement Fund for the fair. Clymer to unveil new playground Saturday. The town of Clymer will build and unveil its new playground in Clymer Community Park on Saturday. Volunteers will build the playground starting at 8:30 a.m. with a ribbon-cutting ceremony at 2:30 p.m. The park is located at 354 Clymer Quarry Road, Clymer. The playground is a collaboration between the town, Kaboom, the Ralph C. Wilson Foundation, and the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation. Area Police Reports. Jamestown Police Department. Dakota J. Raymond, 28 of Jamestown, was charged June 24th with endangering the welfare of a child and second-degree harassment. According to police, at about 3:45 a.m., officers responded to a Southside address for a domestic dispute. Upon arrival, police said officers discovered that Raymond allegedly struck several objects while in the presence of a 9-year-old child. Raymond was placed into custody and taken to Jamestown City Jail without incident. He will be in Jamestown City Court later. Chautauqua County Sheriff's Department. Demian J. Sager, 49 of Mayville, was charged June 23rd with driving while ability impaired by drugs and seventh degree criminal possession of a controlled substance. According to police officials, around 6:50 p.m., deputies responded to check the well-being of a disorderly person in the town of Ellery. The subject was identified as Seeger, and deputies were informed that Seeger drove his vehicle to the incident location. While his ability was impaired by drugs, Seeger was placed into custody and taken to the sheriff's office for processing, where he was later released. He will be in Ellery Town Court later. Sam M. Kelly, 38 of Oakwood, Ohio, was charged June 23rd with petty larceny. According to officials, at about 6:10 p.m., deputies were dispatched to a past tense larceny that occurred on June 21st at Chautauqua Institution. Through investigation, it was determined Kelly allegedly took a bicycle that did not belong to him. Kelly was released and will be in Chautauqua County Town Court later. Metz sets world record in Anaheim. Article by Scott Kinberg. Christy Metz continues to make headlines on powerlifting's biggest stages. The Dunkirk resident competed in the Ultra Nationals in Anaheim, California last month and left there with another impressive entry on her resume. Competing in the raw full power non-tested master 55 through 59 181.7 pounds division, Metz set world records in the squat 319.67 pounds, the bench 238.10 pounds, deadlift 408.96 pounds, and total 954.6 pounds. The three individual lifts and the total all fall under the raw full power division, she said. Then you can also sign up for beach only division, so that record holds up under people who just show up to bench. Added together, Metz left Southern California with 5 world records. Powerlifting.com described the event on its website this way: the inaugural USPA Ultra Nationals, an all under one roof experiment, bringing a wider field of powerlifters together at the Hilton Anaheim, delivered exactly what the powerlifting community hoped for: massive lifts, emotional wins, and enough social media discourse to fuel the sport for weeks. USPA billed Ultra Nationals as the Federation's most ambitious championship ever. By the end of the week, that claim felt justified. Multiple platforms ran simultaneously. Lifters packed the warm up rooms from morning until night, and spectators bounced between flights, trying not to miss record attempts. Now, Mets will prepare for the next big competition in the fall. Back to Worlds on Team USA in November, she said, so I'm really excited. Ryan Swanson had himself a day at the Western New York Classic last week at Springville Country Club. The Lakeview Country Club Pro shot a 6 under 65 to claim the title by 2 shots over Timothy Fries of Glen Oak Golf Club and 6 shots over Alexander Barclay of Springville Country Club and Joshua Kuhn of Oak Hill Country Club. Swanson, a Sherman native and former St. Bonaventure University golf coach, started his day with a double bogey 6 on the first hole, but then eagled the 507-yard second hole, followed by birdies on the 4th, 7th, 8th, and 9 holes to finish the front 9 at 4 under, 32. On the back 9, Swanson birdied the par 4 16th and the par 5 18th on his way to a 2 under 33. In his 3 entered tournaments in 2026, Swanson entered the week currently ranked first in the Rolex Western New York Player of the Year standings with 200 points, 51.25 in front of second place Nick Palladino of Cragburn Country Club. Trenton Shutters, Jamestown Southwestern, represented Youngstown State well this spring on and off the track. A junior music performance major, Shutters was one of 10 Penguins who earned spots on the 2026 Vallejo Outdoor Horizon League All-Academic team. On the track, Shutters helped Youngstown State earn the Horizon League championship, its 7th straight, by repeating as the 800-meter champion. His best time in that event this year came at the Wake Forest Invitational, where he posted a 1:49.89. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from recent issues of the Jamestown Post-Journal. We read from the Jamestown Post-Journal every Saturday at 6 p.m. Your reader has been Bruce. Thank you for listening. And as always, make it a great day.
Coming up next on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Niagara Falls Review. At 8 o'clock, we have Off Duty from the Wall Street Journal. And at 9 o'clock, we have Sports Illustrated. Stay with us for these readings and more. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability.